Let's fucking go, HTG crew. It's PGA Championship week. Finally, shit, man, feel like it's taken forever to get to this week, but I am as pumped for this golf tournament as any that I can remember, honestly. And from a Draftkings perspective, this week is absolutely fascinating. Just the rotational nature of the PGA Championship in general, all those rotational tournaments, especially major championships like the Open Championship. Whew, man, trying to discern what's going to happen on a golf course that, you don't see that often, A, and B, you haven't seen in a decade. Kiawah is going to be significantly longer this week. It could play as a completely different beast. It's just so much fun to see what direction everyone wants to go in, what sort of statistics they want to look at, what types of narratives they like to build. And, we get to soak it all in here at the HTG pod and then decide, what types of pivots can we sort of develop as a result of these storylines and narratives that people are trying to promote? And how can we leverage that to take down that fucking millionaire maker, baby? That's the goal. $1 million to first this week, HTG crew. $20 tournament on DraftKings. We're going to get it. I'm going to recap the AT&T Byron Nelson really briefly, of course, after I spark up the smoke de jour. But, of course, I'll get past the Byron Nelson pretty quickly because it's PGA Championship week. And, quite honestly, we don't give a shit about the Byron Nelson. Although some folks did play well last week, and that could translate into the PGA here at Kiawah. So today I am smoking SFV OG, the grower's Humboldt Cannabis Company. SFV OG, San Fernando Valley. Humboldt Cannabis Company is coming from Humboldt County, California, I would imagine. It's a hybrid, testing at 19.4% THC. Let's get it popping, y'all. The 2021 Byron Nelson, decently fun event just because the boys were making so many birdies out there. Golf course played incredibly easily, complete birdie fest. That was won by KH Lee. Got all the way to 25 under. His first PGA Tour victory. Congrats to UKH Lee for balling out this past weekend. Unfortunately, didn't own any of you on DraftKings. Wish we would have. Person that we did own on DraftKings, Mr. Daniel Berger, who was our pre-tournament winner, came T3. Just ultimately, he couldn't make enough birdies. Berger is a guy that can do well in a birdie fest, but getting to 25 under, had I known that the winning score would get that high, I probably would have pivoted to some guys with maybe a little more upside for making some birdies. But I do love Berger's performance this past week. It was a very well-rounded performance, and because of that, he's looking really good at Kiawah coming into the PGA Championship. The other guy I wanted to talk about from last week at the Byron Nelson, Mr. Sam Burns, who followed up his win there at the Valspar with a solo second at the Byron Nelson, held the 54-hole lead. I really thought he was going to finish it off and win back-to-back starts. Burns has been unconscious. Dude is absolutely balling. He'll come up later as well when we start talking PGA Championship. Little surprised at his ownership this week for the Millionaire Maker as far as it stands right now on Tuesday. So yeah, that's what went down at the Byron Nelson. Birdie fest of a tournament. I imagine it will continue to be a birdie fest as long as it is held at TPC Craig Ranch. Not much I imagine they can do to that golf course to really protect it. So moving forward for that event, just know, we want guys that can go low, guys that can get extremely hot and make a ton of birdies and, present the upside to get to a minus 25 winning score. And with that, we can finally, man, it feels like months I've been talking about the PGA Championship. We can finally get in to the 2021 PGA Championship at Kiawah Island, the Ocean Course. It's in Kiawah Island, South Carolina. We're playing some golf off the coast of the Atlantic Ocean this week, so expect there to be at least some gusty conditions. As of now, the weather looks like it's laying down a bit as far as the wind's concerned. But, I mean, you're on the ocean. There are going to be gusts, at least intermittent gusts. So, some windy conditions, folks. 7,876 yard golf course at a par 72. It will be the longest golf course played in PGA Tour history. Which, I mean, yeah, surpassing Erin Hills. It's going to be a beast, right? I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt to be long off the tee. Do I think it's necessary to succeed to be one of these super long hitters? I don't. But it's certainly not going to hurt at a golf course playing 7,876 yards. It's fucking crazy. These boys hit it a long way now, though. The green surfaces are paspalum. Paspalum greens, common along the coast, do well in salty conditions, coastal conditions. I was reading an article that the superintendent was quoted in. He was being interviewed. Yeah, he mentioned that the grass really does hold up well in coastal conditions, and those are really the conditions that it thrives in. So you see it on a lot of other coastal golf courses. Can be cut very low, but is still a sort of stubby, firmer type of grass. So doesn't get extremely fast, usually plays pretty slow. The superintendent did mention that their particular location at Kiawah Island is so exposed that it does get a little faster than typical paspalum. But the conditions will be a bit like it's not going to be a gust out there. So one of those, or like the Arnold Palmer or anything like that, where you see these greens that are glass. These greens are going to be running a little bit slower, and for that reason, I do kind of like guys that get a little more aggressive with the putter, and sometimes it bites them. I'm thinking like Justin Thomas being one of those guys. Lately, Jason Day, a guy who's been leaving himself, long distances back on those comebackers. Guys who usually do that, I think, they should feel pretty good on these slower green surfaces. And guys like Bubba Watson, like guys who usually like to just sort of trickle the ball to the hole, who perform well on the greens at places like the Masters, at the API, I'm more inclined to fade him. I just feel like he's going to be a little uncomfortable having to sort of feel like he's banging these putts. He's a guy that does like to trickle him down to the hole. So that's one sort of narrative that I'm building myself, that I'm going to play. I don't see it manifesting itself in projected ownership, so I don't think many people are really looking to that narrative. But I do think these guys that get a little aggressive with their first runs with the putter, with the flat stick, they might have a little bit of an advantage this week. So yeah, this golf course is going to be an absolute beast. Last time we saw it, it played about 400 yards shorter, 350 yards shorter. Rory McIlroy absolutely dominated. It was the 2012 PGA Championship. He won by 8 shots. I mean, he was unreal. That's all there is to it. When you win by 8 shots, obviously you're incredible, and he's an incredible player. So one of the best players in the world, probably the best player in the world at that point in time, playing his best golf, wins by 8. It is what it is. Your defending PGA champion is Collin Morikawa, who won last year at -13 at TPC Harding Park. Course fit, I don't hate it for Morikawa. I don't love it. I'm just kind of neutral on him this week. I won't mention him later. Or I do mention him later as one of our plays, but just a little neutral on him this week. I already mentioned that, this setup is the longest ever, surpassing Erin Hills, which held the 2017 U.S. Open, won by Brooks Koepka. The statistical model that we're looking at this week, you're going to be surprised that on a golf course that's going to be playing at 7,876 yards, that I am not going to include driving distance gained. If you're someone that thinks I'm a fucking crazy idiot, then you might be right, and go ahead and fire up all the bombers. But I just get the feeling that this tournament is going to be won by players that have great short games, have demonstrated having great short games under pressure for the length of their career. And if you don't have a short game this week, quite honestly, I really don't want to play you. And you better be a phenomenal ball striker for me to even consider you. Like, you better check every single other box in every way possible. Because I am really looking to these guys that can grind out pars, can get up and down. There's going to be a lot of greens missed this week. So I just want guys that can gain off the tee, but not necessarily gain distance. So I really looked at strokes gained off the tee as my driving metric. If you can gain by hitting fairways, I'll play you by all means. And if you gain through more distance, then your stroke gain off the tee metric will suffer if you're not hitting enough fairways. So I think strokes gained off the tee this week is a good middle ground for what I think is going to play out in this event, where guys who aren't necessarily long hitters but can hit the fairways and hit their long irons well, they're going to be totally live, especially if they have good short games. And again, that's the name of the game this week. So strokes gained off the tee coupled with strokes gained approach will be how I attack my ball striking. Strokes gained around the green is going to be a big part of our model this week. We will include strokes gained putting as well. And to sort of account for the distance that they're going to see this week, I did include par fours, scoring on par fours, 450 to 500 yards, because that is the majority of the par fours that we will see this week at Kiawah. So it's going to be an interesting week, given that we're not including driving distance in our model. I don't think all that many people are going to leave that statistic out this week. So, I mean, we did get to some plays that are higher owned or projected for higher ownership, but we got to a lot of unique plays, I think, this week. And it's going to be really interesting to see if ownership fades are just the way to go, because, I mean, there's so little data to go off of, and there's so much projection happening that it almost just feels like fading the popular narrative is the call. So don't be afraid to get different this week, guys. I know I certainly will be. You guys are going to find out here. My winner of the event is in the mid-shelf, and I feel like a crazy person for taking this guy as the winner of this event. But I've already bet him on his number at sportsbooks. I've seen it 45 to 1 is what I bet it at. I think there might be a 50 to 1 out there. It's going to be incredibly interesting. So drop in the YouTube comments who you think my winner of the 2021 PGA Championship is. Again, he is in the mid-shelf plays. Oh, some withdrawals. Got to get to that too. Matthew Wolf has withdrawn. That's actually a big one. He was priced down low on DraftKings. I mean, wasn't playing well, but probably would have garnered a little bit of ownership given his prowess off the tee. And Vijay Singh has also withdrawn. And with that, we can get into the top shelf plays. I'm going to respark this bad boy, get some water, and let's get it popping for the top shelf plays of the 2021 PGA Championship. It's a lovely week, folks. We're going to dominate this week. One of us is winning this millie. We got the plays, baby. We got the plays. And the first top shelf play. Top shelf plays are $10,000 or more in DraftKings salary. Mr. Justin Thomas, $11,300 price tag, 13.9% projected ownership. Coming in third in our custom model, fourth on approach, 18th off the tee, 15th around the green, 45th in that par 4 range, and 113th with the putter. He's been awful with the putter lately. This is over his last 12 measured rounds against this field. And I already mentioned JT as one of those guys who, I like the fact that these, Paspalum greens are going to be a little bit slower. He can be a little bit more aggressive with that first run, and feel confident that he won't have too much coming back. I think it's going to be crucial for some of these guys this week. It's why I'm staying away from Bubba, even though I somewhat liked him and for some other reasons. ultimately, one of the reasons that I decided not to play him this week is because of these paspalum green surfaces. So JT, the only thing holding him back, he's still coming in third in this custom model, even being 113th with the putter. The only thing holding him back is flipping the script with the putter. We know that he is at least a high upside putter if he does roll it well with the flat stick. So I like JT if I'm paying up this week. I was surprised at Rory's projected ownership. I believe, let me check if it's moved at all. Yeah, Rory's still coming in 9.5% projected ownership. So lower than JT. But I do just like JT's outlook more this week. Rory, even though he's coming off the win, he still hasn't been hitting it off the tee that well, which is really interesting for him. It's usually where he butters his bread, but he wasn't even great off the tee in his win. So with him being, not in his peak form off the tee, I'd rather look to the $200 discount to JT, 13.9% projected ownership, $11,300. And the other top shelf play, only 2 top shelf plays, guys. I really whittled down the player pool this week. I'm going to go to a really concentrated core, and if we're right, we're right. We'll see ourselves at the top of the leaderboard, and if not, it might be a long week, but feeling confident in the narrative that I've built around this golf tournament, and confident that, the guys we're taking have a good chance this week. And the other guy that I think in the top shelf that has a good chance this week, Mr. Bryson DeChambeau, $10,200 price tag, 11.6% projected ownership surprised me. Thought it'd be higher than that, given that I anticipated the narrative would be driving distance, and nobody hits it longer than Bryson. But maybe these approach statistics are keeping people away, and I could understand why they would. Bryson 13th in the custom model, 80th on approach, first off the tee, of course, 36th around the green, 5th in that par 4 range, and 25th with the putter. He does everything else so well, but the irons have just been bad lately. Bryson's going to need to flip the irons, but if he does, he's probably going to win. If he's top, 20 in this field on approach this week, look out. Bryson's probably going to take this thing down. And there is, that is within his realm of outcomes, right? That is a possible outcome, certainly. Maybe not probable, but certainly possible. And even if he doesn't have a, spike performance on approach, he does everything else so well that he could still get himself there. So Bryson DeChambeau, barely north of 10K at $10,200, 11.6%, much lower than I was anticipating. So I like him as my other top shelf play this week alongside JT. And I want to note that everybody above Jordan Spieth feels a little bit under-owned. Spieth in his own right looking great this week. The ownership is just, he's around so many other good guys, like guys that I could see winning this event. 23.5% projected ownership on Jordan Spieth right now. I can get half the ownership on a guy like Bryson and pay $100 more. I'd rather go that route. Spieth can certainly win. He's been on fire. Spieth 14th in the custom model, 3rd on approach, 49th off the tee, 62nd around the green, and has upside, of course, there. 29th in that par 4 range and 32nd with the putter, and has upside there, of course, as well. It's just, can he hold it together off the tee? And for 23.5% projected ownership, I'll hope that he can't over the course of 4 rounds and take my chances with some of these other elite top tier guys that are just not getting as much ownership. So on to the mid-shelf plays. Mid-shelf plays are $7,500 or more in Draftkings pricing. And my winner lies here in the mid-shelf. The first mid-shelf play, Mr. Collin Morikawa, $9,800 price tag, 14% projected ownership, coming in 8th in the custom model, largely on the back of the fact that he is first in this field, as you'd imagine, in strokes gained approach. Kid's a prodigy there. 13th off the tee, 75th around the green, first in that par 4 range, and 84th with the putter. The around the green game is what scares me a little bit with Morikawa. It can escape him at times, as can the putter. There are a lot of other good players, and one player, my winner especially, I will be rostering a lot in this pricing range. But I will get to a bit of Morikawa, at least with the field at that 14% projected ownership. He's just too good on approach to ignore here at this price tag. my winner for the event, and I'm a crazy person for it, but, give me all the Brooks Koepka. $9,500 price tag, 3.3% projected ownership. Let's fucking go, Brooksy. The knee feels good. Everything feels right. I mean, the guy said he feels like he can hit every shot that he needs to now. He didn't feel that way at Augusta. I said at Augusta I wasn't comfortable playing Brooks. He's still reading his putts, a little weird. He can't get all the way down on that right knee, but I mean, maybe he gets a little more accustomed to it. I mean, the guy's been putting like absolute trash, and he is a good putter. He is a great putter. Coming in 10th in the custom model still, even though I believe some of this data is going to go back to before the injury. Yeah, of course it does. So post-injury, of course, he had the Masters performance, which was not great, but he was very hurt. At the BYRON Nelson, gained 2.7 strokes tee to green, was fine off the tee, lost 2.1 on approach, and lost 4.5 strokes with the putter. I mean, we know Brooks long-term. I mean, over his last 5, he's gained 1.9 strokes on approach. He mentioned with his long irons, he was having trouble sort of transitioning the weight from his right side to his left side through the ball. If that's the only thing he's got to work on, I'm going to trust that Brooks Koepka gets it fixed. He said everything else, he's got it working. And the putter, which is a completely different thing, again, these paspalum surfaces, an aggressive putter Brooks Koepka is. So Brooks Koepka, 3.3% projected ownership, $9,500 price tag, 45 to 1, maybe 50 to 1 you can find in the betting market. Give me this guy. I mean, a guy who on a long, difficult golf course like we expect to see this week is the prototype of the golfer we want, right? Other than like he is one of these elites, like the Rorys, the JTs, the DJs, the Rahms, the Brysons. Like those guys are Brooks is with those guys. Like when he is feeling himself, when he is 100%. So if he comes into this thing anywhere close to 100% and starts to feel his groove and starts to get his groove back, I mean, you guys know what happens when Brooks Koepka's lurking on a leaderboard on Sunday in a major championship, especially a PGA Championship or a US Open. So I don't have to tell you what that feels like. I would love to be on the correct side of that one of these times. I'm someone that rarely has Brooks when it does happen, and I want to be early to the party. So Brooks, get that weight from the right side through to the left side, through the ball and those long irons. Let's get it cooking this week. We already know you've got the off the tee working based on the performance last week at the BYRON Nelson. Let's turn it around on approach, and I trust that he can flip the putter for sure. I mean, that guy, he is a great putter. Next mid-shelf play. Webb Simpson, $9,200 price tag, 8.4% projected ownership. And look, I can understand why people aren't playing Webb. He doesn't hit the ball very far. But he's still coming in this field 41st in strokes gained off the tee. Not terrible, especially for a guy who backs that up, being 27th on approach and 9th around the green. 89th with the putter here lately. Obviously, Webb has much more upside than that. I trust him to get up and down around these greens. A lot of these guys are going to be missing a lot of greens, so having a trusty around the green player, it feels very safe to me. So Webb Simpson, $9,200 price tag, 8.4% projected ownership. A play I like for very similar reasons. Patrick Reed, $9,100 price tag, 12.6% projected ownership. Only coming in 40th in the custom model, 89th on approach, 55th off the tee, 33rd around the green, 21st on the par 4 range, and 14th with the putter. But I mean, I throw all that stuff out when Reed arrives at a major championship or a Ryder Cup or any event that, is high profile, because this guy's a gamer. And if it's a grind amount event, then you want a guy like Patrick Reed on your side. So Patrick Reed, certainly I can get to at that $9,100 price tag, 12.6% projected ownership. A guy who I was bummed to see is carrying a ton of ownership, but doesn't surprise me. Daniel Berger, $8,700 price tag, 19% projected ownership. You guys know how much I love this guy, always mentioning him on the podcast. 7th in the custom model, 10th on approach, 15th off the tee, 50th around the green, 33rd in that par 4 range, 450 to 500 yards, and 58th with the putter. I mean, he's just an all-around stud, great player. Hope he, has a breakthrough performance at a major championship one of these times around, and it very well could be this week. I will roster some Berger for sure because I can't miss out on the party. But at 19%, there are so many other good players around here that, I wouldn't be. I couldn't blame you if you played, right? Like Tony Finau's $100 cheaper. Will Zalatoris for $100 more. Cameron Smith, a great around the green player, for $200 more than Berger. Scotty Scheffler sitting there for $200 less than Berger. I mean, there are some great players around him. Sungjae Im down there at $8,300, and even some more players that I'll get to down here in the mid-shelf. There are some really good players that you can pivot off of that ownership to. But I do really like Berger this week. I mean, $8,700 feels too cheap, and that's why he's carrying that 19% ownership projection, unfortunately. Let me respark this thing. All right, where were we? We were wrapping up Daniel Berger, heading to Mr. Tommy Fleetwood. $8,200 price tag. I know my boy Jafe is pumped to hear me mention Mr. Fleetwood at 4.1% projected ownership. Tommy likes himself a major. Tommy likes himself a long, difficult golf course too, and we got both this week. And he comes in 18th in the custom model, 31st on approach. Here's the scary one, 96th off the tee. 7th around the green, though, 14th in that par 4 range, and 69th with the putter, and he can get super hot with the flat stick, as we know, can just, like, drain 40-footers on command, especially on major championship Sundays. If Fleetwood can figure it out off the tee this week, I love him. He's a gamer. If it gets windy, you know he's going to be really good. And he did gain 0.2 strokes off the tee at the Wells Fargo and gained 0.9 strokes off the tee in a missed cut at the RBC Heritage. So he is starting to turn it around off the tee. I really like Fleetwood this week. I absolutely love Fleetwood. Jafe, I know you're watching this. I know you're listening to this. Play all the Tommy Fleetwood this week. Text me once you watch this and be like, let's go. It's Tommy Fleetwood time. Fleetwood fan club this week, 4.1% projected ownership. Big performance this week, Tommy. I don't know if I would necessarily bet an outright because Fleetwood doesn't like to win, but I could see like a Sunday 65 to come solo second. That's right up Tommy Fleetwood's alley. Another guy who loves to finish second in major championships, has finished second in all of them before, Louis Oosthuizen, $8,000 price tag, 11.1% projected ownership. You know, similarly to Fleetwood, long, difficult golf course at a major championship, screams Louis. Hopefully the back's feeling okay. Louis, extremely similar to Fleetwood in that his only flaw is off the tee, where he ranks 100th in this field. Other than that, 29th on approach, 30th around the green, 14th in that par 4 range, and 5th with the putter. Yeah, if Louis can remain neutral off the tee, then he's absolutely going to pay off this week. And he's so good around the greens and on approach that he might be able to make it work anyway. Did gain 0.1 strokes off the tee at the Valspar, so that is good. Has gained strokes off the tee in 4 of his last 5 events. Big miss at the Players where he lost 3.6 strokes off the tee, but that's a wonky design. Very difficult golf course. Also a Pete Dye design, but the different golf course. And I don't think that should bear any weight, the fact that he lost that many strokes off the tee at the Players. I'm not that concerned about it. So if Louis can turn that around this week, looking like a stellar play for $8,000 flat, 11.1% projected ownership. And he's a really good pivot off of Abraham Ancer at $7,900, 19.7% projected ownership. Ancer, the darling, the stat model darling, he's just been absolutely on fire lately, coming in 5th in the custom model, 19th on approach, 2nd off the tee, 65th around the green, 3rd in that par 4 range, 450 to 500 yards, and 12th in strokes gained putting. Yeah, I mean, as far as the model's concerned, there are no holes in the game. Maybe the around the green comes to bite him, potentially, but Ancer, not terrible around the green. Really could present some upside from that 65th ranking too. So I do get why he's garnering this much ownership, but again, this week with so much talent around him, like I would rather go to Louis at almost half the ownership. I mean, pay $300 more for Fleetwood at like a 5th of the ownership. That just sort of feels like a no-brainer to me, where you can just gain so much leverage on the field and still have a really talented golfer that gives you a lot of upside. All right. This one might give me fucking nightmares. But I'm going to play him. You guys probably shouldn't, but I'm going to. It's Jason Day, $7,700 price tag, 1.8% projected ownership. And I'm just leaning on his around the green. That's literally what came to mind. Jason Day is one of the world's best chippers. A phenomenal sand game as well. Just around the green, he's so good. 11th in this field around the green over the last 12 measured rounds. 27th overall in the custom model. 79th on approach. 19th off the tee, so he's been fine off the tee. 122nd with the putter. He was another guy I mentioned who I hope can benefit from these paspalum greens. Yeah, I'm going to fire up Jason Day. Flip it around with the putter. We know what upside he can bring with the putter. He has been for an extended period of time one of the world's best putters. So if he can find some of that magic, he might not even have to be great on approach. He's so good around the green. If this golf tournament plays out where it's more difficult and par is a good score, he can be middling on approach, just be neutral to the field and just do all of his work on and around the greens. And at a $7,700 price tag, he doesn't even have to win, but he has that upside. We know the type of talent that Jason Day is. So Jason Day, $7,700, 1.8% projected ownership is why I'm more interested. I'm going to play boatloads of him because I'm a crazy person. You should probably play none of him. But yeah, I'm riding or dying with my boy J Day this week. If you're a more sane person, you should probably play Paul Casey at the same price tag, $7,700, 18.5% projected ownership, 22nd in the custom model, 21st on approach, 45th off the tee, 40th around the green, 77th in that par 4 range, and 75th with the putter. Would be cool to see Casey be a guy that break through at a major championship too. He's such a talented player. $7,700 is such an easy price tag to get to him at. Even at the 18.5% ownership, if you're playing cash, I think Casey's an easy guy to go ahead and slot in. Just really no big flaws to his game, no big holes in his game. Like this venue for him, a long, difficult venue. So Paul Casey, $7,700. The safer of the $7,700 plays between he and Jason Day for sure. 18.5% projected ownership. An interesting one for me this week, Corey Connors, $7,600 price tag, 19% projected ownership. For that reason, I'll probably go to a fade, especially because we'll be playing so much Jason Day at $7,700. But 20th in the custom model, 9th on approach, 14th off the tee, but 102nd around the green, 28th on that par 4 range, and 96th with the putter. We know he's not a great putter. The around the green, if he's missing any semblance of greens this week, Corey Connors is toast. He's talented enough as a ball striker to, pace the field in greens and regulation, but if he doesn't, he's probably toast. So I'm just going to go to a guy like Jason Day, guy like Paul Casey, because again, I'm a crazy person and I'm trying to win all the money this week. And if Jason Day can pop this week at this low 1.8% ownership projection, look out. Gary Woodland at a $7,500 price tag, 6.1% projected ownership. The off the tee is back for him. 27th in this field off the tee over the last 12 measured rounds. Second in that par 4 range, popped for me as well on the model. And 24th around the green. Woodland, a good chipper, has been for a while. 83rd with the putter, a streaky putter. I wouldn't call Woodland a good putter, but can be good with the putter at times. And 39th on approach. So the game's really returned for Woodland, and it doesn't seem like people are willing to believe it or at least ownership doesn't reflect that. $7,500 price tag, definitely fair for Gary Woodland. 6.1% projected ownership feels low to me. And the guy that's been playing really well, I'm surprised he didn't garner more ownership, but this is probably more where he should be owned. Sam Burns comes in at a $7,500 price tag, 8.8% projected ownership after winning the Valspar and then coming second last week at the Byron Nelson. Burns coming in second in the custom model, as you can imagine. He has a lot of good data over his last 12 measured rounds. 11th on approach, 28th off the tee, 12th around the green, 31st in that par 4 range, and 29th with the putter. He looks stellar. He's been playing stellar, right? He hasn't been playing in the most stacked fields, but there's been some talent in those fields that Burns has had to traverse in winning and coming solo second. So, I mean, 8.8% seems fair. I can get to 8.8% Sam Burns at a $7,500 price tag. And that takes us to the best part of any major championship of any HTG podcast show, the swag bag plays, baby. The sub $7,500 plays on DraftKings. We have, 10 of them this week. You're going to have to dig down here a little bit from time to time if you're going to, play one of these top shelf guys, which you're probably going to want to play some of those top shelf guys because you're going to want to have the win equity in your lineup. So we got 10 swag bag plays for you that we hope pop off. One of them that is significantly overowned, in my opinion, and that we will be fading. But I usually mention them, but we got to fade them this week, folks. The first swag bag play, really like him this week. It's Matt Wallace, $7,400 price tag, 12.3% projected ownership. Wallace coming in first in the custom model, 7th on approach, 33rd off the tee, 10th around the green, 3rd in that par 4 range, 450 to 500 yards, and 65th with the putter, and presents upside with the putter. Love Wallace this week. He's too cheap at $7,400. I will be rostering plenty of Matt Wallace. A guy who also, if it gets windy, I like those conditions for him. So the Euro Matt Wallace, looking great this week. And at $7,400, underpriced. He's a better player than the players he's priced around. I can't believe I'm even going to mention this next guy at the same price tag that I just mentioned, Matt Wallace. And that's sort of signifies how underpriced Matt Wallace is, but it also sort of signifies how overpriced this guy is. And you probably have no idea who he is. It's Garrick Higgo. $7,400 price tag. You're like, who the fuck? Garrick Higgo. $7,400 price tag. I don't even know what his ownership is because he's not even in the model on Fantasy National. I don't think he has any rounds on the PGA Tour. This is going to be his first round on the PGA Tour Thursday at the PGA Championship, and I am mentioning him on the HTG podcast. I feel like a crazy person, but, someone who you just take a shot at maybe in one lineup. Higgo, in his last 3 starts on the European Tour, has won twice, and in his 3rd start came T4. So, boy's been ballin'. He's a lefty from what I can see, South African. And, apparently just a smooth swinging lefty South African that just pocketed himself a couple wins on the European Tour and a T4. So, if you're riding that kind of momentum, I imagine he feels invincible. And I just sort of want to see what happens for him here. So, Garrick Higgo, overpriced at $7,400, objectively overpriced. You can't price him with Matt Wallace. That's ridiculous. But I don't know. He's not even in the Fantasy National model. He's coming off 2 wins. No ownership projection. I imagine this guy goes basically unowned, and maybe he's just a fucking stud. He's just won twice. So, Garrick Higgo, let's see it, kid. I'm gonna fire you up in a lineup or two. And I would fire him up at the expense of this next guy, just due to ownership. Keegan Bradley is the guy I mentioned that is overowned in this range. $7,300 price tag, 19.5% projected ownership. And you guys know, longtime listeners of the podcast, I love myself some Keegan Bradley. I mentioned Keegan Bradley quite a bit as a play on the podcast. A very talented ball striker. And you know what? The putter's been, decent for him lately. 60th in this field over the last 12 measured rounds with the putter. Coming in 4th overall in the model, 16th on approach, 48th off the tee, 6th around the green, 20th in the par 4 range, 450 to 500 yards, and as I mentioned, 60th with the putter. So Bradley, of course, statting out really well, especially for the $7,300 price tag. Has been playing phenomenal golf. I get why ownership's going there, but again, I'd rather play Matt Wallace. I really would. For a significant reduction in ownership and $100 more, I would just get to Wallace instead. Another guy who's been absolutely dominating lately, Chuck Hoffman, $7,300 price tag, 13.9% projected ownership. Coming in 6th in the custom model, 15th on approach, 24th off the tee, 13th around the green, 70th in that par 4 range, 450 to 500 yards, and 37th with the putter, so he's been bringing the flat stick with him too. I mean, I'd rather go to Hoffman at the reduced ownership than Bradley too, so we know Keegan Bradley's a guy that is a really volatile player, especially if the conditions get difficult. I would rather just fade Bradley and look to a Hoffman or Wallace, and maybe even slide in a Garrick Higo lineup or two. If you're a crazy person like I am, who's playing a bunch of Jason Day, Brooks Koepka, and a sprinkle of Garrick Higo. I'm a sicko. All right. Jason Kokrak. Let's talk some Kokrak. $7,100 price tag, 12.1% projected ownership, coming in 12th in the custom model, 20th on approach, 8th off the tee, 66th around the green, which is a bit of a concern, 48th in that par 4 range, and 41st with the putter. I mean, of course, you can't have a model of consistency down here in this pricing range at $7,100, so the around the green is a bit concerning, but he does everything else so well for this price tag. He's been playing very good golf. A long and difficult golf course is more a type of golf course that I like to have Jason Kokrak at as well, because he hits his long irons so well. So Kokrak looking solid at that $7,100 price tag, as does Cameron Tringale at the same price, $7,100, coming in 15th in the custom model, 43rd on approach, 72nd off the tee, but 5th around the green, which I really like to see, 25th in that par 4 range, and 17th with the putter. So Tringale's been getting up and down from everywhere. Hopefully he continues to do that, because I think that's going to be a skill set that's going to be well served here at Kiawah. At $7,000 flat, before we get to the boys priced in the 6Ks, we have Chris Kirk, 5.4% projected ownership. Kirk coming in 23rd in the custom model, 45th on approach, 40th off the tee, 58th around the green, 31st in that par 4 range, and 10th with the putter. Kirk's going to have to bring his putter if he's going to pay off this price tag. He's going to have to be, one of the guys pacing the field in strokes gained putting, and that's within his realm of outcomes. The 5.4% projected ownership feels about right to me. If Kirk, flashes with the putter this week, he can pay off this price tag, make a cut, maybe a top 25 finish, which could be enough to get you that millionaire this week. All right, now the guy's priced in the 6Ks, and I was sort of surprised that this guy didn't crack into the 7Ks. He's been playing so well lately. The old man, Stuart Sink, $6,900 price tag, nice, 7.2% projected ownership. Sink coming in 17th in the custom model, 2nd on approach, 61st off the tee, 78th around the green is the concern, but 12th in that par 4 range, and 30th with the putter. If Sink can use that, that putter around the greens, the Texas wedge around the greens this week on those past Palom surfaces, as I mentioned, a little bit of a slower surface, if he can sort of dial those in and improve the around the green numbers, I really like him at this price tag. A guy who the major championship pressure is not going to get to. He has plenty of reps in these types of events. He's playing really good golf. I really like Stuart Sink at this price tag. 7.2% projected ownership is not unfair at all. I also really like this next guy, Thomas Pieters, $6,800 price tag. Let's see, Pieters, 5.3% projected ownership, so even lower than Sink. Coming in 16th in the custom model, 32nd on approach, 32nd off the tee, 28th around the green, 55th in the par 4 range, 450 to 500 yards, and 126th with the putter. I honestly don't know how aggressive Pieters is as a putter when he rolls the flat stick. But I'm just going to hope that he's, better than 126th in this field, because if he's anywhere near neutral, he's at least going to make a cut for you at $6,800, which is, it's hard to say about any of these guys down here. So just one thing that Pieters needs to do, he needs to putt neutral to the field, and he's going to make a cut for you. And that feels very good down here in this pricing range. So I really like Thomas Pieters, $6,800 if you have to dive below $7,000. 5.3% projected ownership, completely fair. And the last SCHWAG bag play for the 2021 PGA Championship, Mr. Harold Varner III. HV3, $6,600 price tag, 3.9% projected ownership. I'm a little concerned if it gets really windy, but if the conditions stay sort of benign, then HV3 can be solid here. 3.9% projected ownership, so he's basically unowned. Coming in 21st in the custom model, 50th on approach, 35th off the tee, 35th around the green, 63rd in the par 4 range, 450 to 500 yards, and 21st with the putter. So, he's doing everything reasonably well. The short game's been really good, 35th around the green and 21st with the putter, especially down here at a $6,600 price tag. I'd prefer not to leave myself down here. Really, I'd like to cut off my lineups with Peters. He's really as far down as I would like to go. But if you have to dig below there for $6,600, Harold Varner III is your guy at that 3.9% projected ownership. And that does it for the 2021 PGA Championship HTG crew. Don't forget, Sunday, I'm going to get together this playback. I'm going to get together this broadcast. We're going to do a Sunday sort of sweat broadcast. Hopefully we have some lineups sweating that million that we can all talk about. Have some fun. Listen to me call the action in sort of a, fun DraftKings-oriented way. I'll send out that information here, as the tournament gets underway, certainly ahead of the weekend for you guys, so you guys can hop in. But, yep, pencil in Sunday afternoon to be with me at the Masters. I love you all. We're going to have a huge week this week. Let me know who your plays are. Drop them in the YouTube comments. And Jafe, let me know what you know about Mr. Tommy Fleetwood this week. It's Fleetwood Fan Club week, baby. I love y'all. Let's get it. Fleetwood. Koepka. Peace.